In today's video, we have the game Sargissian Hakemi. So let's see how it went. 1c4. So it's also a possible way to get into the Queen's Gambit declined, especially black plays c6. So white plays this knight f3 g3 type of game here, or knight c3, and then we are just very quickly transposing back to 1d4. Knight f6, c takes d5, e d5, bishop g5, c6. So the classical main variation. We play e3, and yeah, so it's even for those people who don't play this bishop d3 knight g2, it's an interesting moment, and it's very good to start with d3. So I would say it's the only precise move. Even I would go that far, because it's important to understand that if if white plays knight f3, black has this very strong move h6. So the point of the move is revealed after bishop h4, so bishop f5. So this is normally a critical moment of this opening, that with such a structure, whether this bishop can be developed here or not. If it can be developed well, then it's pretty great for black, I mean equalizing wise, but otherwise this piece is a problem. So why was it so important to include h6 is revealed after queen b3, that in this position black can play g5, very important. So of course, if we would just play h6 right now, imagine if we don't play it in the previous move, then bishop f6, queen f6, queen b7, and we can resign. Here, however, if queen b7, then black has gh4, queen takes on a8, and queen b6. So this is a line which is known for a while to be extremely good for black. White has to be very careful not to lose a very short game here. So why I was showing this is that after e3, if black plays h6 first, or again tries this bishop f5 idea, then we keep the option of playing queen to f3. So that's pretty important. We are hitting the bishop, and we also want to create a double pawn on f6. So bishop g6 was played in this game. I mean, nevertheless, this line was played by Vladimir Kramnik with the black pieces amongst others. So it's, I mean, back then, it was considered to be dubious and, giving white a very easy game. But, with engines and, increasing of the defensive resources and ideas, it again came back as an acceptable opening. Still, I don't think that we should be too unhappy when we get this as white. So queen f6 takes, knight f3. So the first idea here for white is to target f5 square. So that's, of course, I would not say it as very surprising, given that black doesn't have g and e pawns, so that's a weak square, and putting the knight on f5 looks pretty nice. Black played knight d7 and knight h4. It's still well known, and here black played the correct move. So he has to be very alert in this situation, because basically this idea, which was discovered by Magnus Carlsen's second John Ludwig Hammer, like bringing the knight towards the f3 and f5 very quickly, even before developing the bishop or doing anything else, is very unpleasant. So bishop e7 is considered to be the best move. Sargissian played this knight e2, and then black plays f5. So that's why, it's a little bit hard to play this line with black, I would say, if you have I don't know, dislike for bad pieces, because this bishop on g6 is certainly not a very strong bishop, but as they say, like very bad pieces are protecting very important pawns. The pawn on f5 is doing a great job of blocking the way for white pieces, and it's very hard to break black's position. So basically now playing f3 and break it somehow, with the pawns on the king side, it's pretty much impossible. So I mean, it's an interesting concept. Normally it is used when black is happy with the draw, or just wants to be very solid. So here there are two main options for white: to play g3 or knight f3. Of course, knight takes g6 would be how does it say in like football, like you would be suspended from playing for half a year if you take such bishop and allow hg6. So yeah, we don't do that. So g3 is the main line. This is played in most of the games, but I believe after making it even more ugly for black, giving up the best minor piece after takes knight f6, he's holding it surprisingly well. Even black wins some games from this position, which looks hard to believe, but once white is over pushing a little bit, or it just looks extremely ugly with the knight coming here and this bishop not being able to do much. But simply the thing is that we don't have enough pieces to put pressure on f5, and yeah, this is just very hard to break, to be honest. So therefore I like the choice of Sargissian, who played knight f3. So keeping the pieces on the board, we cannot say that knight h4 did not make any sense, because we provoked f5, so the bishop is in a cage. So yeah, it definitely made sense. So black went long castle. A lot of moves are possible. I don't think that long castle is the best, but I mean, it's also possible. Rather, what higher rated players normally do in this position is to try rather to push a5, a4. So the rook, they are saying that the rook is doing a great job on a8, and the point also is that, as I said, this like breaking black on the king side is very difficult, and if black basically takes away the chance for the minority attack, then basically it will all come down whether we can put enough pressure on f5 that we can win the game or not. So in this game it was long castle, g3. It's a very logical move, knight f6 and knight f4 now. So with g3, the bishop can come from two ways to attack on f5. h4 can be played at some moment maybe. And here I believe black already did quite a serious mistake, which shows that even though white is just playing around with the knights in a way, but there are still some concrete ideas. So knight e4 was played in the game, which looks like a little bit of a empty move in a way. So like, okay, knight can go to e4, but it's still not doing that much. So I was looking at knight h5, for example. It's also not really solving the problems of black, because the problem is not the knight, but the bishop. So we can just play knight e5, for example, knight f4, gf. And yeah, the bishop remains extremely bad. We have ideas like pushing h4, h5, or if h4 is met by h5, then the bishop is losing one of its protector, and it's an even weaker square. Then probably our next step could be to double on the g file, and that pressure can be maybe even enough to win the game. So objectively, I believe a move like bishop d6 is something I like better for black, with the idea of taking this knight and then rather keep this other knight on the board. So given it's a close position, the knight could be more useful, also helping with stopping this h5 idea. Probably something like this, and here I recommend to play knight d3, just not to give anything easy for black. And still we have h4 idea. We can move the king to e2, some moment bishop to h3, also b4, a4, and moving slowly on the queen side is an idea. Instead, black played knight e4, and white is a serious mistake because white played this very strong move h4. So this is highlighting the unfortunate situation of the bishop, and now since the knight is not on f6, black cannot block this this red with a piece, which would be really needed here. And it's, you know, h5 is trapping the bishop, so black has basically two moves. Playing f6 is extremely ugly, and I believe actually after bishop h3 it's also losing some material very quickly. So it's a move with the h pawn. What is more desirable, I would say, is to play h6, so at least not to put this pawn on a square which is easy to target. But the problem is that h6 is losing on the spot because of knight e5. So there is a double threat on g6. Bishop cannot leave because f7 is hanging, and you know, if black is protecting the bishop, then after h5 the bishop nevertheless has to go, and after knight f7 white is winning the game. So h6 not possible, therefore black played h5. But now we have two possible targets, and the position of the bishop is getting even more set. So, you know, that's why some people, like probably including me, it's just not possible to play such a line, because the g6 bishop is really, like, you know, tough to play with, I would say. So white plays knight e5, again g6 is under attack, rook goes to g8, so now at least no h5, since black played this move, and now rook c1 was played. So basically these knights for now are completely dominating the board. Like black cannot play f6, black cannot move the bishop, the rooks are stuck protecting the weak king side, so the knight and the bishop can move at this moment. Also with rook c1 we introduce some threat of knight d5, which is better not to blunder. So king b8, a3, just a useful move. Bishop b4 should never happen, and we can push with b4 at some moment. Bishop to d6 and bishop to h3. I like this move a lot. So it's a little trap, I would say, because it looks like that, okay, finally maybe black can do something like bishop e5, and after d he has 4 pawns against 2 on the king side, and white is so bad actually. At some moment rook e8 can come and so on, but okay, let's go. I mean, rook e8 also allows e6, but the main problem here actually is that f3 is a huge threat. So it's very nicely, you know, controlled here with the rook here. So this knight is in a cage. So after f3 we can even give up g3 if we want. We can start with rook g1. So black has to basically resign at this moment. He cannot save this knight. I mean, or maybe he can, but he's losing some other material. So bishop c7 was played. Now knight e to d3. And black cannot simplify in any way or try to go for some trade. Is also very difficult. So he went knight d6. Again, just the bishop and the knight can move. King e2. Now rook e8. Still not doing that much. Knight goes back to e5. And I believe at this moment black should have gone back to g8 or protect this bishop again, which doesn't look very good. I mean, we could just continue pushing on the queen side or doubling the rook, so we have still one rook which is not participating in the game. So playing something like rook c2, rook 8 c1, and then pushing the pawns on the queen side looks like an idea. Not speaking about a new knight takes d5 threat once we doubled. So black went knight b5. Finally, it looks like some activity, but actually this is the losing move, which went unpunished at this moment. But yeah, so maybe I would suggest to you to stop the video and try to figure out what is the best way for white here. So Sargissian played knight f3, which does not spoil anything. It keeps the advantage, but the game goes on in a slow way, so to say. And there was just a very strong move, which is completely crushing. So it is a4, kind of ignoring the black's threats, so to say, on e5. So of course the knight cannot go back, because then we are just taking a pawn and winning the game. So bishop e5 is the line. And here we are not taking on e5, since compared to the previous situation when the knight was on e4 in an extremely unlucky square, now it's an amazing knight on c7. So it blocks e6. It's behind the pawn, so rook is targeting e5 now. Yeah. So this is just a perfect square for the knight, coming to e6 probably. So that's not the point, but here a b5. That's why it's easy to reject this a4 move, because it looks like that, okay, black is taking on d4 or f4 even. But okay, if we just go a little bit further, like if bishop takes d4, then there is b takes on c6, and black's pawn chain is getting destroyed. B c6, rook c6. So the material is equal, but we can almost say that black is down a piece, because that bishop is just not doing anything. This pawn is hanging. b2 is not possible to take, because rook b1. Yeah, it's pretty much resignable. And bishop takes on f4 is also not much better. Again, the great thing about this whole sequence is that it's trading the two pieces black could play and create any counterplay with, and this bishop remains on the board. So let's say if c takes b5, black is even up a pawn, but after bishop g2, I even finish my analysis here, because this pawn is going to fall after rook c5, and again, playing at some moment a bishop endgame with this bishop will be not fun. So it's very close to lost. And if rook c8, so if black tries to keep the c6 pawn, then we just take. And for example, a line like this is pretty convincing. Again, this pawn is weak, and even if black takes, then the other rook will come, or maybe the king comes to d4. So this endgame is technically lost. So a4 was very strong. Instead, knight f3, also pretty good, but not immediate win. So black played rook g8. Actually, here finally he had a chance to change a little bit in the character of the game. And this is also something which happens in so many games, that when one side is missing the concrete win, it's not only that opponent stays in the game, but opponent has a chance to, thanks to a bad move, to improve the possession, because now the knight had to go away, and after bishop f4 gf, black can play this move f6. Things are far from brilliant, but at least the knight is a little bit sidelined for white at this moment. So to e5, it cannot go to f4, it's taken away as well. Black will play some knight d6 if rook e7, trying to hold this position, and maybe it's holdable objectively. It's still a huge suffering, but maybe it's holdable. So instead rook g8 was played, but now Sargissian played knight d3, so now everything is back to how it was. So f6 now, but again, now the f4 square is available for the knights later, so that's not the same. So rook h2 g1 now, knight d6, now knight to f4, and black played rook e7. Probably missing the next move from white, so it should have been bishop f7 in this moment. So by playing f6, the light squares are even weaker at this moment. So keeping this bishop on the board now was the best objectively. It's a very hard move to make, because it doesn't only mean that this bishop cannot move now, basically anywhere, because it has to guard h5, but it means that the knight is also has to stay on d6. Okay, on the positive side, in the Karsvat structure, normally d6 square is the best for the knight. because it controls the most important squares, e4, c4, and the possible, against the possible minority attack, it also controls b5. So d6 is pretty good, and if you add that f5 is also important to control, then black cannot be too happy with the knight. So basically black has just to stand here and wait how this minority attack, which will eventually come, work out. So rook e7, and again I would suggest you to stop the video. Sargissian played a strong idea in this position. So it's a move which we normally don't do it, but when we do and it's wrong, then it is just normally makes black's position to collapse. So he took this bishop on g6. Of course, it's not it would be even more special if black would take back with the pawn. I mean, normally that's why this move is really not played. But still, beautiful knight is taking an awful bishop. But the point is that the weakness of these pawns completely justifies this decision. So rook takes on g6. So now, at some moment, if the knight can come to f4, then the rook will have to protect on h5, which is really bad. Knight again is stuck with protecting on f5, and we still did not even start pushing the pawns on the queen side. So rook c2, rook g7, king d1, just going out from the e file, bishop b6. Yeah, so yeah, it's actually a nice move. I just realized it as another point. I mean, in general, going out from the file is pretty logical, but our next plan is to improve this knight, which is doing nothing on f3, and the idea is to bring it to f4, of course. But if we go knight e1, then f4 very strong for black. E pawn cannot take, g pawn cannot take, so better not to miss that. So king d1, bishop b6, and now again a very nice prophylactic move, rook to f1. Looks strange, but now we understand that again knight e1 is what we want. But after f4, g pawn cannot take, and if e pawn takes, then we lose this very important d pawn. So we have to make sure that we can take with the g pawn, and for that we just move the rook to f1. So king c7, and now we can maneuver the knight, king b8, knight d3. So rook h7, black is already anticipating knight f4, bishop c7. So everything went according to the plan. We managed to force the knight to protect on f5. The rook has to protect here. So basically two pieces cannot move for black. I mean, rook on e7 is doing not much. And we have two rooks completely free to do anything, and the king. So it's time to switch our attention to the queen side, creating another weakness in black's position, which will eventually be decisive. So a4 was played by Sargissian, rook h6, king e2, bishop b6. Okay, just one move threat on d4, but okay, don't blunder. King e8 and b4. So we are already there with this idea. I mean, black could not really slow it down. So if you wonder, let's say that in this position, why not some a5 to slow this down, simply because we have, as I said, an extra piece. So after rook b1, b4, and so on, we are still pushing there. So black cannot stop this. So king e8, b4, a6, rook b1, and b5 is already in the air because of tactical ideas like knight takes d5, and if pawn takes back, then knight can also hang on b5 after we push. So knight c4, knight a3 is the one move trick, rook b3, and bishop c7, which at first looks extremely surprising, why to give up the pawn for free, but the thing is that this knight d6 simply also not good. So white breaks through with the b5, and these three pawns, d5, f5, and h5 is too much for black to handle. So after AB, knight takes b5, this knight takes d5, just simply crushing. So c takes on d5, rook b5, actually very nice position. I mean for white, not for black. I mean for black it's extremely bad. So h5, f5, d5, b7, probably. I mean not in this order, but all pawns are going to fall. So bishop c7, but yeah, I mean after giving up the pawn, the game is basically over. So king f7, b5 is still coming. So black is down a pawn, and white has still no weaknesses, and black has quite a few. a5. And now I would say an important move, and normally not for this position necessarily, because again it's decided in many ways, but when opponent plays a5 and he can put up some blockade like this, like with b6 creating a pass pawn, or very often in Queen's Gambit decline to have a knight on b6 and a pawn on a4, for example, is a pretty good combination, because the knight can be hardly bothered there, and it also protects d5, the weakness, and supports the passed pawn. So, you know, strategically, the next move is very thematic from white, b6, to take away the square. So rook h8, but of course, once again, here in this position, it's not important, just maybe for some more even position in the future, it can be something useful. So let's say rook c8 here, rook b5 was played, knight d6, second pawn, third pawn, and all the pawns on the fifth ranks are lost. And after king e6, e4, black resigned. I mean, it's completely normal. He's down 3 pawns, and we even have the good combination of rook and bishop, and it's basically 5 pawns against one f6 pawn on the center and king side, so there is not much hope. I believe a pretty instructive game from Sargissian, like showing that how bad it can be for black, you know, if you play just patiently. So it's very hard to break down black's position with direct play or like immediately going for pawn breaks, but once you do it slowly like he did here, it's just super unpleasant to play with black. I hope you liked this video, and see you soon with probably some similar video in this structure.